It was an ordinary evening, quiet and uneventful, when everything shifted in a way I never could have predicted. I had just finished my dinner, and was idly scrolling through my emails when Melissa, my wife of 7 years, entered the dining room. There was a tension in her movements, a subtle stiffness in the way her fingers tapped nervously against her phone. Something felt off, though I couldn't have guessed the magnitude of what she was about to say. She sat down opposite me, avoided eye contact, and in a voice barely above a whisper said, "I need to tell you something. I'll be going away for a few days with Ryan." For a moment, I just stared at her, expecting laughter, a joke, some kind of explanation that would make the words meaningless. But Ryan wasn't just anyone. He was her ex, a man she had long insisted was in her past. Hearing that name associated with travel made my stomach drop. My mind tried to reject it, to convince me that I hadn't understood. My wife, the person I trusted most, was planning a trip with someone who was supposed to be a closed chapter. I wanted to scream, to react, but I held myself back, trying to steady the storm raging inside. She didn't flinch. Her lips pressed together, her gaze fixed on the table as if preparing for my response. The silence was suffocating. My chest tightened, yet I forced myself to remain calm. I knew that showing anger would only give her a chance to paint me as jealous or controlling, and I refused to hand her that victory. Finally, I asked the one word that carried all the weight of my confusion and hurt. "Why?" My voice remained steady, even though beneath it, a storm of fury churned. Melissa explained in careful, polished words. It was supposedly a work-related trip. Ryan had connections that could benefit her career, she said, and I should trust her judgment. Her casual, almost dismissive tone turned my stomach. She wasn't trying to hide anything. She was presenting her betrayal like a rational decision I should accept without question. As she spoke, I noticed the subtle glances, the faint anticipation in her eyes. She was hoping for a reaction, waiting for me to argue, to beg, to shout, so she could frame me as unreasonable. But I didn't give her the satisfaction. I let her finish, nodding faintly, my expression carefully unreadable. She had rehearsed her words, but she had no idea that I wasn't playing along. When her explanation faded, the silence stretched. I leaned back, met her gaze, and simply said, "Don't worry." 2 words. That was all. The effect was immediate. She blinked, slightly open-mouthed, clearly expecting confrontation or desperation. Instead, I offered calm, an unshakable composure that unsettled her far more than anger ever could. She repeated the words in disbelief, her voice trembling. "Don't worry, that's it?" I didn't answer. I simply held her gaze a moment longer, then returned to my emails, as if the conversation had never occurred. That night, she circled back repeatedly, testing, probing, trying to gauge whether I was angry, hurt, or even still in love. But I remained unmoved. My silence, those 2 simple words, carried a weight she hadn't prepared for. The more she tried to provoke a reaction, the more unsettled she became. She had assumed control, but in reality, she had lost it the instant she revealed her intentions. The next morning, I didn't wait for her to pack or explain further. While she showered, I quietly packed my own bag, leaving divorce papers on the kitchen counter with a brief note. "Don't worry. I'm done." No arguments, no explanations, just the truth laid bare in writing. When she emerged, her face went pale. I was already walking out the door, head held high. Melissa had believed she could flaunt her past, manipulate my emotions, and return to a marriage she assumed would wait. But the moment she mentioned traveling with her ex, she had already ended our relationship. My 2-word response wasn't just calm, it was final. It was my way of saying that I wouldn't fight for someone who had no respect for me. In the end, it wasn't yelling, tears, or dramatic confrontation that defined the moment. It was quiet certainty. Sometimes the most powerful statement doesn't come with chaos or noise. Sometimes it comes in 2 words, spoken once, marking the point where you walk away for good.